See. You think you have sense? I know your face. I'm going to report you to the headmistress.
This is not my real face, so look at my real face here.
My people, imagine being just a little girl, still in primary school, still playing with friends, still worrying about homework, and then one day, millions of people around the world suddenly know your name, not because you're a politician, not because you're a musician, not because you're a football star, but because you made people laugh. Today we're talking about one of the most famous child comedians Africa has ever produced. A little girl who started from ordinary comedy skits in Port Harcourt and grew into a global internet sensation. This is the story of Emmanuella, from her humble beginnings to worldwide fame and where she is today. Trust me, some parts of this story may surprise you, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Emmanuella Samuel was born on July 22nd, 2010 in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Nigeria. Although her family traces its roots to Imo State, like many Nigerian children, her life started very normally. Nobody could have predicted that she would one day become one of the most recognized young faces on the internet. At the time, she was simply a little girl with a bright personality, funny, confident, and full of energy. But destiny had something special waiting for her. According to accounts of how she got started, Emmanuella's journey changed after she met Mark Angel, the popular comedian and video producer who would later become one of the biggest names in African online comedy. At the time, Mark Angel was looking for children to appear in comedy videos. Several children were considered, but something about Emmanuella stood out. She was young, very young, but she showed unusual confidence and determination. Even during long filming sessions, she remained focused, and that impressed Mark Angel. Soon, she became part of the Mark Angel comedy family, and that decision changed her life forever. At first, nobody knew how big she would become. She appeared in comedy skits, made funny comments, delivered jokes with a straight face, and slowly, people began to notice her. Then came the moment that changed everything, a comedy skit called My Real Face. If you were active on Facebook years ago, there's a good chance you remember it. The video spread everywhere. People shared it. Friends tagged friends. Families watched it together. And suddenly, the whole world wanted to know one thing. Who is this little girl? That skit helped push Emmanuella into international fame. Even major international platforms noticed her, and her popularity exploded. What made Emmanuella different wasn't just that she was funny, it was how she delivered her jokes. She didn't laugh at her own jokes. She didn't try too hard. She simply spoke naturally, and somehow that made everything even funnier. People loved her confidence. People loved her expressions. People loved the way she could challenge adults in skits without fear. Soon, she became the face of many Mark Angel comedy videos, and viewers kept coming back for more. Week after week, month after month, year after year, the channel continued growing. The views kept increasing, and Emmanuella became a household name not only in Nigeria, but across Africa and beyond. As her fame grew, the awards started coming. Recognition followed. Media organizations talked about her, fans celebrated her, and many people began calling her one of the most successful child comedians in Africa. For a little girl who started in comedy videos, that was an incredible achievement. But success wasn't only about popularity. Emmanuella was also helping change perceptions. She showed that African children could create content that reached a global audience. She inspired many young creators and opened doors for others who came after her. Today, when people talk about child comedy in Nigeria, Her name is almost always part of the conversation. Many of the younger creators that became popular later entered an industry she helped make even more visible, and that is part of her legacy. But while fans were watching the comedy videos, many people were also curious about her personal life. Who was Emmanuella away from the cameras? Was she still going to school? How did she balance fame and education? According to reports over the years, she continued her education while building her entertainment career, and that impressed many people because fame can be difficult, especially for a child. Yet Emmanuella managed to continue growing while remaining one of the most recognizable faces in Nigerian comedy. Then something interesting happened. The little girl everyone remembered from the early skits started growing up. Year after year, fans noticed the changes. The child comedian was becoming a young lady, and social media couldn't stop talking about it. Many people who had watched her as children themselves were shocked. Now here's the question many people have been asking. Where is Emmanuella today? What happened to the little girl that made millions laugh? Is she still doing comedy? Has she disappeared from the spotlight? Well, the answer may surprise some people. Emmanuella never really disappeared. She simply grew up, and as she grew older, her life naturally began to change. Unlike when she was a little child appearing in comedy skits almost every week, her public appearances became less frequent. Many fans who were used to seeing her constantly started wondering what was happening. Some even assumed she had completely quit comedy, but that wasn't exactly the case. Instead, Emmanuella began focusing more on her education while continuing to build her future. And honestly, many people respected that decision because fame can come and go, but education stays with you for life. As the years passed, fans continued to follow her through social media, and every time a new picture appeared online, people reacted the same way. Shock, because many Nigerians still remembered her as the tiny little girl from those comedy skits. But the Emmanuella of today is very different from the little child audiences first met years ago. She has grown into a young woman, more mature, more confident, and still recognized by millions of people across Africa. One thing that hasn't changed, however, is the love people have for her. Even today, whenever old Mark Angel comedy clips resurface online, people still laugh, people still share them, and people still remember the role Emmanuella played in making those videos unforgettable. In many ways, she became part of the childhood memories of an entire generation, and that's something very few entertainers can say. Another thing many people may not know is that Emmanuella's success also brought financial opportunities. Over the years, reports suggested that the Mark Angel comedy brand generated significant attention and business opportunities. As her popularity increased, so did her influence, and she became one of the most recognized young faces in African digital entertainment. But perhaps the biggest achievement is not the fame, not the views, not even the awards. The biggest achievement is the impact she made. Think about it. A little girl from Nigeria managed to make people laugh in countries she had never even visited. Millions of views, millions of smiles, millions of memories. That is not something that happens every day. And even though she is no longer the little child we first met on our screens, her story continues to inspire young people across Africa. It shows that talent can come from anywhere. It shows that age is not always a limitation. And it shows that sometimes one opportunity can completely change a person's life. Today, Emmanuella remains one of the most successful child entertainers Nigeria has ever produced. Her name has become part of Nigerian entertainment history. And whether she chooses to remain in comedy, move into acting, business, or any other career in the future, one thing is already certain. The little girl who made the world laugh has already secured her place in history, and years from now, people will still remember her, not just for the jokes, but for the journey. A journey that started with a little girl and a camera, and grew into a story that inspired millions around the world.